let's check your answers for Mental Math 93 that you guys did yesterday. All right, the first thing is to reduce, okay? Remember, when we reduce, we go to the lowest number and factor it. Well, there are only two factors for 5, and that is 1 and 5. So 5 is going to have to be the greatest common factor for all of these fractions. Okay? 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 20 4 times. 5/20ths equals 1/4. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 15 3 times. So 1/3 is 5/15ths. And 5/10ths we can see is 1/2. But if we were to do it, it would come out the same. 5 goes into 5 once and 5 goes into 10 twice. Okay, B is 3 cubed. That means 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. And then 9 times 3 is 27. So 3 cubed equals 27. Okay, this is one of those problems I really wanted you to see how you could do it mentally. Okay, 4 goes into 4 how many times? 1 time. But the 4 is in the hundreds column, so that means it's 100. 4 goes into 436 100 times, and then 4 goes into 36 how many times? Well, that's 9. So 100 plus 9 would be 109. And if you were to divide this out the way you usually do in the traditional method, it would come out as 109. 109. Okay, for the next problem we have 50% of 100, 10, and 1. Well, we know that 50% means 1/2. So what is half of 100? Half of 100 is $50. What is half of 10? Half of 10 is $5. And what is half of $1? Half of $1 is 50 cents. 2 cubed is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. And 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, how many years are in a millennium? Well, remember that milli means 1,000. So a millennium is 1,000 years. So what is half of a millennium? 500 years, right? This is the Roman numeral for 9, right? The X means 10 and the I means 1. And when the lower number is in front of the higher number, that means that in the Romans would subtract. That means subtract 10 minus 1. So 10 minus 1 is 9. And that's what that is. Okay, let's look at multiplying decimals. All right, remember when we multiply that we do not look at the decimal at first. We multiply without even paying attention to the decimal. So 3 times 4 is 12. So let's write 12 on our paper. And how many numbers are behind a decimal point? Well, we just have 1, and that's this 3. So we need to move our decimal over 1 place, right here. So our answer is going to be 1.2 for this one. All right, what about 0.3 times 0.5? Well, these zeros don't mean anything because they're before the decimal. So 3 times 5 is 15. And then how many numbers do we have behind decimals? 1, 2. So we need to move our decimal over 2 places. 1, 2. So the answer to this is 0.15, 0.15. Okay? Now here we have 0.12 times 12. 12 times 12 is 144. But how many numbers do we have behind a decimal? There's no decimal here. The decimal is actually invisible right there, and there's no numbers behind that. So we just have these, 1, 2. 2. So the answer to this is 1.44. Okay, on this one, we are supposed to round these numbers and then multiply them to find the product, right? So 9 4/5 is closer to 9 or 10. Well, 4/5 is almost another whole. It's not quite one whole. So this will be closer to 10. And 5 1/3 is not quite 5 1/2. So 5 1/3 is going to be closer to 5. And what is 10 times 5? 50. So the estimate for this, 9 4/5 times 5 1/3 would be 50. Okay, look at your next problem, which is subtracting a decimal, okay? A decimal from a decimal. Well, normally you would do what you always do and line up your decimals, right? So you would have 0.3 here minus 0.25, and then you would annex a 0 here and subtract it like a regular problem, right? Bringing your decimal down, okay? And if we did that, it would be 10 minus 5 is 5, and 2 minus 2 is 0. But I want to show you how to do that mentally. When you look at decimals, you want to think about them like you do money, okay? Because money is decimals, okay? So this is the same as if you turn it into money, it would be 25 cents, right? And this, if you turned it into money, would actually be 30 cents, right? But when you simplify decimals, you don't need the 0 there. So we need to think about this mentally, like 30 cents minus 25 cents, right? And we know that is going to be 5 cents. How do you write 5 cents in a decimal? 0.05. And that's what we got when we worked it out, wasn't it? Okay, now you need to round 0.05 to the nearest whole number. Well, again, let's think about it like money. Is 5 cents closer to $0, or is 5 cents closer to a whole dollar? Clearly, it's not even 50 cents, which is half of a dollar. So 5 cents is definitely nearer to 0. So that's the answer to that one. Round to the nearest whole number, 0. Okay, here we're asked to compare these decimals. Which one is larger? Okay, when comparing decimals, you want to compare them one at a time. 0 and 0 are the same. So far there's no difference. Okay? The next number is 3. And the next number after that is 0 in this number. Well, which one is bigger, 0 or 3? It's the 3. So this number is going to be bigger than that number because this first number is larger than that one. You don't even have to go any further on any of the other numbers to figure out which decimal is bigger. Because, again, think about it in terms of money. If you move the decimal over 2 places, this is like saying 37.5 cents. And this one's like saying 3.75 cents. So 37 cents is definitely bigger than 3 cents. Okay, so this next one is, we have 10 out of 50 apples, right? And they want to know what percent that is. Well, first, let's reduce this fraction, and it'll be a lot easier for us to figure that out. So when we reduce, we go to the lower number and factor it. The factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. Does 10 go into both of these numbers? Yes. So 10 is our greatest common factor. 10 goes into 10 once, and 10 goes into 50 5 times. So this fraction reduces to 1/5. And what is 1/5 in percent? Well, we memorized it. 1/5 1/5 is 20%. Okay? 1/10 is 10%, right? 10%. And this is half of a tenth. 1/5 is half of that. So, or is, excuse me, not half of that. 1/5 is twice that. It is double 1/10. So 1 out of 5 pieces is twice as large as 1 out of 10 pieces. So what is twice as large as 10%? 20%. So 1/5 of something is always going to be 20%. Okay, now for the volume of this cube. Okay, volume equals length times width times height. And the cube that we see there is 1 by 1 by 1, right? 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 1 is 1. So the volume of this cube is 1 inches cubed. Or you could write it as 1 cubic inch. That would also be correct. 1 cubic inch. Okay, so now you just need to send your corrected Mental Math 93 to me. Just send a pic of it, and I will give you full credit for that. All right, and then we'll look at the next lesson.